surgeons who regularly play video games make less errors. 32% fewer errors, 24% faster, and scored 26% better overall than their non-player colleagues.
Oh, I believe that for sure.
That's incredible.
So I'm always looking for fun topics to cover that are popping up in pop culture. And I just happened to find the jackpot when Elon Musk showed up on Joe Rogan's podcast recently, and they were talking about video games and how they correlate with surgical skills. So I just had to sit down with Nicole and talk about this.
I was reading this study about surgeons where they found that surgeons who regularly play video games make less errors.
Well, I mean, video games require manual dexterity, so it makes sense.
Completely makes sense.
Actually, if somebody was like epic at video games, I'd say like their surgical skills can be very good, because in order to be good at video games, any kind of fast reaction video games.
Look at this: 32% fewer errors, 24% faster, and scored 26% better overall than their non-player colleagues.
Oh, I believe that for sure.
That's incredible.
This is something that I've actually sort of touted for years, because I'm familiar with the study that they're talking about when it talks about correlation of video games and surgical skills. So it was actually really fun to hear about it on one of the biggest podcasts in the country.
Well,
like that, you should be required in medical school to play video games. Don't you think?
If somebody's like a top-ranked video game player and they say they're a surgeon, I'd be like +1, +2.
Well, there you go. Elon Musk says if you're good at video games, you're probably going to be a good surgeon. He'll trust you. I mean, they were just having so much fun with that. They were so enthusiastic about it. So it was just really a lot of fun for me to get to see that because, obviously I'd played video games for most of my life, and I actually do think that it's contributed. I feel like I can finally be like, hey, Mom, like it wasn't a complete waste of time.
Yeah, I mean, it does take a lot of skill to play video games and play them well. I do not play them well. The only game I can kind of play well is Mario Kart.
I was going to say, I think you're pretty good at Mario Kart.
Thank you. But pretty much nothing else.
Type of thing.
Oh, top rank for sure. Well, but this isn't even top rank. This is just people who play.
Well, your manual dexterity has to be extremely high.
Yes.
So you're looking at things on a screen. You're reacting, and sometimes you got like 10 milliseconds to react.
Yes.
And so if somebody's got incredible reaction times and manual dexterity, they're obviously going to be a good surgeon.
Imagine if there was a course that you could take. That course would promote. You would be 26% better.
Yeah.
So they're kind of hitting like the same things that we talked about already. Like they're just sort of emphasizing it. Although I will have to say that the study that Rogan is talking about here, it wasn't actually looking what surgeons were doing in real life surgery. It was a surgery simulator. So it's not exactly correlative to like these are better surgeons having better outcomes on real patients. You can't really measure that truly because there's not a great way to say how many errors did these have. Like when it's a simulation, you're like, that was an error, that was an error, that was an error. It's not so clear, cut and dry, so to speak, in surgery.
Okay, what are your go-to video games for manual dexterity?
All right, back in the day
guy?
when I played a lot of video games, which I actually don't play anymore, which maybe I need to dust that off.
Yeah, maybe you do.
For the skills.
Come on now, you're cheating your patience.
That's right. My patients would like me to play more video games. My big go-to game was Halo 3. That was when I was like really in my prime in college, and I was playing competitively. You hush your mouth. You better respect my surgical skills. That's right. I was in my Halo Prime and Halo 3. I was actually pretty competitive.
Whew, I'm going to have to ask our friend Wesley if this is true to corroborate the story.
Well, Wesley's not very good at Halo. But I will give you that Wesley's better at Call of Duty. So these fast reaction times, like these multiplayer games that require a lot of fast reaction times, especially when you're playing against other humans, those are the ones I think that test your reaction times a little bit more. Anything that's involving you having to use multiple sticks, multiple buttons all at the same time with both your hands to make you a little bit more ambidextrous, I think would probably correlate. Now, I don't have any real data to back that up, but that's sort of my assumption. But we have arthroscopic surgery where we're using a camera and we're doing things inside of a joint on a computer screen.
That sounds complicated.
It is complicated. I mean, it's surgery for a reason. But I think that the ability to change on the fly and adapt on the fly makes you a better and quicker learner. What Rogan and Musk didn't mention in this episode is that there's other studies that looked at ability to pick up on new surgical concepts quickly in surgical learners. So they looked at, there was a couple studies that looked at non-surgical residents and surgical residents, meaning that they were in residency training to be surgeons. And those who had more video game experience or played regularly were able to pick up on new concepts more quickly. So that was some other studies that I looked at once I watched this episode.
Everyone would have to take that course.
Sure.
Why would you want a surgeon that's less prepared? You would say, hey, Bob, did you
yeah.
take this course? You didn't take this course. Don't you understand this course makes you 26% better?
Sure.
You would have to take it. Everyone should have to play video games
Yeah.
if you want to be a surgeon.
Well, I love seeing Rogan get so animated on like, oh man, they got to take the simulation. Like they got to play video games if you're 26% better at surgery. It was amusing for me to watch. I don't think that probably correlates, honestly. If you took every single surgical resident and told them to play video games, I don't think it would necessarily mean you will be 26% better at surgery. We have to remember that this study was looking specifically at a surgical simulation, which takes out a lot of critical thinking because it's a fixed set of variables. All of the unknowns and the pressure of surgery are not there. It's not real. It's not real life and death. There's all of these unknown variables that could change that a video simulation isn't going to do. But
is it kind of like playing the game of Operation from when you're
it's
a
a
kid?
little bit more advanced than that. It's a little bit more technically advanced than that. And we do practice all the time. We practice on cadavers all the time. Like we're doing real life surgery.
In case you didn't know, cadaver is a deceased person who's donated their body to science.
Correct. So as a surgeon, when we're learning, we will often try out procedures and approaches where we're trying to get to a certain part of the body safely in the prescribed way. We practice on dead people because no one can get hurt. But you're dealing with real human anatomy, and you're dealing with practicing dexterity in an applied way. I think the message here is that it's really fun to see that video games are getting their due here, and like they're showing that there actually is some value to it, and you can actually get some benefits from video games. I think obviously video games come with challenging territory too, where they can suck you in and actually cause social problems. So I would encourage people not to just take up video games because you think it's going to make you more manually have better manual dexterity. But I do think that it can offer some benefits. And just like they said, if it helps you relax and unwind and decompress, I think it's a great thing to do.
Well, I think it certainly would be a very good test to see if somebody can't play video games well. Like that means, because you got to move both hands simultaneously.
Right.
You got to react to something very fast, then on the screen. So, and if your keystrokes or your mouse clicks or whatever are wrong, then you lose the game.
Right.
So, if somebody's has a good rank in video games, I would say that their manual dexterity must be extremely good.
Well, it's so
their fine
hard.
motor skills have to be excellent.
If you think about like StarCraft or any game like Quake, any game where a lot of people are playing, to rise to the top, you have to be exceptional. Period. As a human being, there has to be something exceptional about you.
If there are any tiger moms out there who are like, yes, my child should play video games and train at it intensely so that they may one day become a surgeon, that might be a little bit challenging as we're finding more and more data about how screen times and video games can affect children adversely, as well as positively in some ways. But yeah, just use your best judgment and just know, Caleb's mom, that it wasn't all for nothing.